Good morning. This is NTV. I'm Karagawa Baldwins once again. There is a condition, an economic condition that is seemingly not going away. We are suffering such tremendous pain from the fuel price crisis, which is looming large. Every other day you get to the fuel pump stations and you see that actually fuel prices are continually going up. There seems to be nothing being done. The government doesn't want to talk, doesn't want to explain what is going on, and we are kept as captives. So as of today, of course, 20th March, the petrol fuel prices in Kampala, Uganda are as follows. Shell and Total is 4,100. Petro City, Oryx and Mogas, 4,000. That is quite a striking price tag for fuel. So according to an interview done by the Daily Monitor on the 21st of January this year with the Private Sector Foundation Executive Director, Mr. Gideon Badagawa, said that the immediate effect of these spiraling fuel prices will feed into commodity prices, including food, which implies so, which are likely to drive inflation higher. High fuel costs will result in a high cost of doing business. Those exporting and importing products will not be spared either, as they will find doing business more costly. And if the fuel prices are high, we are going to see reduced exports and imports. That's Badagawa saying. So let me just get a historical recap of what happened in 2011. Let's just play this video clip.
Activists for Change, or FOC, a pressure group advocating government action in the face of rising fuel and commodity prices, went ahead with the walk-to-work protest, even after President Museveni warned them last week.
I want to warn them, they will disrupt themselves.
Traders at the notorious Kiseka market blocked the roads with stones. But the police was out to disperse them with tear gas. Hours, shops at Kiseka market remained closed as anti-riot police patrolled the market and nearby areas.
Chairman, open yours if you think you're not affected by inflation.
Even after President Museveni warned demonstrators, here at Kiseka Market, they have remained defiant. They have vowed to continue of what they call walk to change. The market chairman pleaded unsuccessfully to have their shops.
So you can see that 7 years down the road, literally the situation is actually worse. It's unfortunately that because of apathy of some heavy state security mechanism to bar people from expressing their dissatisfaction about what is done, there's nothing being done to change this course, and society is not actually getting up in arms. So there are factors which have been spread around that are being claimed to be causing this particular problem, and one of them is Uganda's free liberalized economic system, market system, the fuel pricing determination policy and regulation, and a developed value chain system of the petroleum and oil gas industry, the supply chain and market system with the cartelism by fuel companies, and the international oil system. So what needs to be done? We have contacted the Ministry of Energy to make sure that they present officials to explain what is going on. For over 2 weeks, we have suspended, actually, we have kept on postponing having this discussion, and the ministry is not responding. So what we did is to make sure that we continue the discussion. So within the House, I have an economist, a Ugandan economist expert who I think is familiar to us all, Ramadan Ngobi, and I think he's extremely impassioned and experienced in these areas of Uganda's economy. So I'm going to request him for us to discuss these 5 factors which have been stated to understand how do we deal with them, how does the government need to deal with them, and how do we as a society need to respond to them. So Ramadan, Uganda, of course, is a liberalized economy. And ongoing, there is an expression that also the other weakness, of course, is that Uganda is a landlocked country. And you have the Kenya Pipeline Company in Mombasa causing slow discharge of products because it's under repair. Though there was a disclaimer made by the spokesperson that actually that doesn't impede whatsoever the production outflows of this. So we need to understand, is really the liberalization of this economy the one propelling and making us captives of this fuel crisis situation that we're in? Or this and can we control, can we live in this kind of system? Do we need to revise it? Yeah, just.
Thank you, Baldwin, and good morning to all our viewers. I think this fuel issue, we have actually have a conversation on it over time. It's good you have brought the memories of 2011. In 2011, I remember the inflation was around 11% by June of that year when the walk to work started. And we had a conversation on this, even at MOOBS, where he had an economic forum. We had a conversation of this nature, where we got all the economists and the guys in the fuel value chain to have this. And we all agreed that number one challenge Uganda has is that we over-liberalized this economy. We took liberalization to mean also deregulation, that you can leave the markets to determine the prices. That's okay.
Markets meaning demand and supply.
Yes, market forces. Demand and supply should determine the price. When the demand increases, let the fuel prices increase. When the supply reduces, let the fuel prices increase. And vice versa, when they go the other way around. That's the standard way of economics, and it's what is done in many other countries. However, contrary to what our market fundamentalists here are doing, other countries have tried to guide those markets as they determine the prices, the forces of demand and supply. They don't give room to those who want to take advantage of the market forces to fleece people with their money. In Uganda, we don't have that. Actually, sometimes I tell people whom I usually meet that someone would be very stupid in Uganda not to take advantage of any situation to make money, because we have left the economy so open and quite on the mercy of those who are playing in it. In other words, those who are business people, the traders, the transporters, and everybody. Everybody is speaking a margin on the value chains. In other words, they are trying to add cost instead of adding value to the value cost. I mean to the value chain. Yes. And this problem is not only unique to fuel, but fuel is so critical because the most traded item, the most traded commodity in the world. Yes, and
it's the biggest input in all the terms of production.
Oh, yeah. So what we have done is that whenever government provides any excuse for fuel companies to change prices, it's very, very much welcome. For instance, now government has indicated in its budget framework paper for 2018-2019 that they are going to increase the fuel price, the fuel tax by 100 shillings. They are anticipating to raise a revenue of about over 200 billion out of that.
And actually taxation is one of the regulatory kind of tools that you use. So if you increase, if you increase taxation, that implies you are forcing actually the pricing, the consumer unit pricing.
Whenever you give them the excuse, first of all, the tax itself would increase the price,
of
definitely,
course,
by that 100 shillings.
Yes.
But now when government shows appetite for money by increasing the tax by 100 shillings, because the market is open, fully liberalized, those who are dealing in oil are going to add in their own money. If it is 100, they will add in some 80 shillings. So they increase by 180.
Yes.
So the price will increase quite astronomically. But in other countries where they have a way of managing the markets, like in South Africa, they are also a liberal economy. In Kenya, they are a liberal economy. In Tanzania, they are a liberal economy, but they don't behave like us. They have ways, first of all, they put in place funds. They put a fund, its job is to stabilize the price. They don't fix the price. I'm one of those
Yes.
economists who don't believe
Yeah.
in a government as determining the price.
Yeah,
To tell
communi-
fuel companies it must be 2,000 shillings.
Yes.
No, they shouldn't do that.
A state-run economic system.
Exactly. It's more, dangerous than,
Yeah.
than the system we have. But as you leave the market to do so, make sure that you monitor, you follow up the prices, such that these players do not take advantage. Remember, fuel industry is oligopolistic in
Yes.
nature. There are very few
Firms that are dealing with it.
that are dealing in the product.
Yes.
And even amongst those few, there are those who are market leaders. Like now in Uganda, there are those 3 big ones.
Yes.
They are
Total,
going to
Shell,
take,
Petro
yes,
City.
they are going to take about 70–80% of the market share. So in a basic economics, those who have been in a basic economics classes, we teach students that whenever the market is oligopolistic, the farms cease, the smaller farms cease to be competitive. They can't change the price. It's the
Yes.
big guy to
Determine.
Determine.
Yeah, and actually, but I've observed that prices are seamlessly balanced with those the influence in the fuel market leaders, like Total and Shell, which have the same price, and it increases in the same particular proportion, same particular figures, and the other smaller ones also the same.
Yeah.
So it seems there's actually an agreeable, a mutual cartelism.
we call it cartel.
Exactly. So that oligopolistic situation that we have,
You don't
is
need to
also
doubt it. It's
so they're sitting together on
in
one table
Uganda.
and agreeing, this is how we go.
In Uganda, banks, fuel companies, they are operating in cartels. There are all signs to show this to anyone who has eyes to see, that these guys collude. Because how come that when you go for particular, for example, markets, because they segment markets, they say this road will be this price, this road will be this price.
Yes, yes.
And all of them,
They're the same pricing.
they are going to be the same price. What you find at Shell, what you find at Total, that's oligopoly. Now, in other countries, they do bring in what they call antitrust laws. Antitrust laws are intended to break down the cartel kind of arrangement,
system.
such that you don't collude, you compete. For example, one area which we have tried to regulate in Uganda is telecom. We started by not regulating them. And you saw what happened. MTN and was it UTL?
Airtel. Yeah.
No, UTL.
Yes.
They had colluded against Airtel.
Airtel.
At one time when it was still worried, they colluded and created what we call a duopoly. Then the worried went to sue them. And when they agreed to settle it out of court, Parliament intervened, and Parliament said now UCC must ensure that these firms never collude again. There must be regulation. And UCC has been doing that. They may not be so perfect, but they have tried. And as a result, there's a lot of competition in that sector. There are very few players, but there's competition.
Yeah.
You will find billboards showing you this is the price in my own, for you can put on 500 shillings, you call Warid or rather Airtel to Airtel until you lose battery. Your airtime will be there. Have you ever seen fuel companies doing that?
No.
In other words, when they are competing in price,
No.
what they do, they just try to differentiate their products by showing you this fuel is unleaded, whatever it means, this one is V-Power, whatever it means, this one is so on and so forth. But they don't go to prices. The prices are the same. They just compete in convincing customers to become religious for their products by buying their product. I think in Uganda, it's high time we got a competition law. And we follow up that competition law with the antitrust law to ensure that these companies do not take advantage of Ugandans when market forces are moving in a certain direction and they propel them more to move in that direction. Market forces should remain, but they should be well regulated, well monitored. We have a ministry here for economic monitoring. I don't know what that ministry is meant to do. I don't know, really. I've been asking myself, what is its work? We have a number of
the ministry also, Ministry of Energy, has, I've been told, it has a unit that does fuel price monitoring. and regulation. There's a gentleman who is out of the country. We've been trying to ensure that they come and be pitted against you, but unfortunately it hasn't made it. The commissioners who are on that particular unit. So there are all these arrangements to make sure that things are done. But what I've been told also, considering the cartelism and fighting against the issue of regulation and policy establishments that give a control hand on this market, that some of the individuals who are put in the realms of regulation and policy making are actually players themselves, they're owners. Yes.
We call it regulatory capture. You know, a man called Stigler, a professor of economics, in 1970, said...
They want to explain globalization.
Exactly. You are going to get what we call regulatory capture if you decide to go for... I can tell you where the problem came from. Somebody convinced President Museveni and his government that to regulate an industry, you need someone who's knowledgeable about that industry to do so. So instead of getting people like well-trained academics who have studied the science of that industry and so on, they get someone who has
done business,
actually who's doing business.
Exactly, yes.
Now you find people who are owning schools are the ones who's regulating schools. People who are owning clinics are the ones regulating clinics. People who are owning fuel companies are the ones regulating. People who are in banks, they are the ones regulating banks. So you find it's all
a blatant conflict of interest in regulation. So
and what they do, they get captured by the market they are regulating. They become part and parcel.
Yes, because they are sympathizers.
Often I watch your TV here when it's news time and you bring a regulator. And the guy is fighting so hard to defend the entities he's supposed to regulate on how they should make money, on how they... And it's all because of that weakness in the government of thinking that the regulators must be those who are
practitioners
who are practicing in the same business. Definitely they're going to be captured. It's a monkey forest kind of a scenario.
Okay, so let's talk about just shortly about the petroleum value chain system, because we are getting frustrated. The meaning that we have a certain process that is trying to generate fuel out of the ground, rather petroleum out of the ground, but still stored. In 2017, the energy sector report by June 2016 discovered ground oil resources that were amounting to 1.4 to 1.7 billion barrels. A barrel implies that it has 159 liters, okay? However, up to now, we have not yet managed, because we put the value system, value chain system to get up to the refinery level. And you have the upstream, the midstream, upstream, which is licensing, exploration, appraisal, midstream, which is transportation, refining, gas, and rather refining and gas processing, and downstream, which is supposed to deal with this issue of regulation, which is distribution, marketing, and sales, making sure that the market is properly regulated. So do you think these market players themselves are playing against the time clock and trying to take advantage?
No, fuel industry is a very dirty industry. It's a commodity, and you know commodities world over behave in a way that the players in them are usually very, very not straight people. They will try to play all games to ensure that they make it so difficult for anyone who wants to take away their bread.
The advantage, yes.
And the president has tried a lot to fight them, but they are showing him that we are, more sophisticated than you think. And it's going to take time because you ask yourself, Uganda is not the first country to discover oil. There are so many African countries which have had oil in the last, half a century. How many countries on the African continent can purify oil, have oil refineries? And
Nigeria.
Nigeria is
and
still
it is
importing
embattled.
They take the fuel.
The fuel is refined in Nigeria, but it's imported for the market supply, which is ridiculous.
The value chain is not theirs. Somebody else owns it.
It's for Shell and Total and all these.
Exactly. You find them lining up with the jerry cans. It's a very dirty sector. That's why some of us were not so excited when we discovered the oil. We told people that, this is going just to cause a Dutch disease here, whereby it will take attention of government away from the things which can matter to bring, the economy forward for transformation. And then we focus on an industry which, first of all, we don't have capacity to manage. You know, always when you listen to the guys who are operating in the sector, especially Ugandans, they'll tell you this sector is so complex. But they don't break down the complexity of the sector because they don't, it's not about rules of the game. There are no rules of the game for it. It's a mafia kind of style. Big money moving around. Sponsorship is coming from those big giants who want to frustrate you, to ensure that you export crude, and they end up, you know,
bringing you back
the money and I mean the fuel, and you give them the money. So we are still having this challenge. We didn't. We tried to prepare ourselves for it, and I'm quite optimistic that because the president has been insisting a lot on we shouldn't sell our oil, you know, in crude. We need to get the refinery done. It's going to cost us a fortune. But I think for those who will be around in the future, it might bring some kind of, because in some countries like Algeria, like Morocco, those countries which have purified their oil resources and also went ahead and not listened a lot to the market fundamentalists, they have managed to give people fuel at very good prices. And as a result, you know, fuel is a very big factor in driving the economy.
Of course,
it's
very embedded in all the production system,
the transaction costs
industry,
everywhere. And this has helped Uganda. I mean, it has helped them to provide oil at quite good prices. Actually, in the world, I think Uganda and Afghanistan are the only poor countries with a purely liberalized fuel sector. Uganda and Afghanistan. All other countries that are of our state in terms of the economy have in one way or the other managed the fuel prices by using certain, you know, what we call second best or scenarios than the market. Okay,
so the other excuse that is, or perhaps reason that is given, is the fuel supply chain system, because the value chain is the production mechanism and how it's regulated. So Uganda does not currently produce any petroleum, of course we know that. So the petroleum procurement process, this is where it comes to be a serious challenge. Exactly. So petroleum products are produced by oil companies importing into Kenya or Tanzania from refineries throughout the region, Red Sea, Arabia, Gulf, West Coast, just getting the details. So there is this particular explanation that you people, if we are a closed up, without a seaport, we're a closed up economy, and we depend on other countries to get here this oil, it's inevitably going to be a high price. So whatever affects Kenya, whatever affects the international oil prices is going to affect us. Do you think that's quite a justifiable reason why?
I wouldn't want, I know it's a reality, but I don't want to think that it should be used as an excuse for us to have these exorbitant prices, because we are not the only landlocked country. The fuel
but you're aware that also OPEC actually has done some kind of collusion, and they dropped the supply of petrol. They do that. They do that. You remember the battle they had with the US. Yes. When the US wanted to deal with Russia, just supplied. Then the prices dropped. Now what OPEC finally has decided is to pull out some supply. And the US has determined to produce its oil and take off the caveat from its protection. So do you think there's a justification?
I was saying that there is no justification because we are not the only landlocked country. There are landlocked countries that even pass oil here, and they are doing quite better in managing the prices than us. There is one country we usually want to compare ourselves with, and I know authorities are not happy with that. But the reality is they are doing better. Rwanda. They get the fuel passes here through Mombasa,
through Uganda.
It goes down there. But you find
the cost compoundment really would
too high compared to ours. But they end up selling fuel at relatively better price than ours. What causes that? It is that what we started with, the competition law, the regulation, and some fund which they put in place to ensure that they stabilize this price. You know, this government was told by the multilateral agencies that you have nothing to do with business. Get out. You need to open up And when they heard that you needed to open up, for them they plucked out the door and threw it away.
Yeah, but
and
we were under pressure because the economic situation was extremely
with no
dire.
control
Yeah.
over these prices to ensure that you don't just fix them, but you can monitor and see if they are really getting so high, like fuel prices increasing by 200 shillings,
Yes.
like they have done in a space of 1 month. That's obscene. Any serious government should come in and see how do we really maintain the fuel prices at a level, because you know prices are sticky down. When you allow them to go up, you will find it so difficult to bring them down.
Yes.
That stickiness is there in a classic economics. So you don't allow prices to rise if you don't want to see inflation in your country, because you will fight a lot to bring them back down.
Yeah, sure.
And now it will be a tug of war for government to reduce the prices of fuel again to the levels where it was.
Yeah, and I've actually never seen a recession.
They might
of
hang around 4,000,
Yeah.
then they go beat 3,890, then they go back at 4,000. They hang around there,
that,
and that will feed into a lot of other inflation, especially in the core area, whereby the general merchandise, because Mombasa, Kampala is the second most expensive route
Yes.
in the world. After Chad, Cameroon, our route of Mombasa to Kampala is very, very expensive when you are transporting a ton of merchandise.
Yeah.
Now you allow that to be fed into again by fuel prices. Of course, it is very expensive because of the poor infrastructure.
Yeah.
We have talked of the standard gauge railway. It's not coming, and it's not likely to come in the next couple of years. Therefore, you need to manage your oil resources so well such that you don't cause this problem.
Yeah.
After all, you know, in this country, Uganda, the fuel efficiency also is very, very poor, because we are driving old vehicles. Now, all over the town, vehicles are stopping on the way because people are driving them on very little fuel and they get stuck in jam.
Okay.
So all of these causes and is compounding a problem we are having.
Thank you, Ramadan. It's a very intricate area to discuss, but I think we've made a contribution out there to the public to make judgment and the policy realm to make sure that they can pay attention to this, because it's making us to be captives of our own country just by this one. Thank you so much. A very brilliant and insightful discussion.
Thank you.
Thank you, our viewers, for keeping us indeed as your #1 station. This is Morning at NTV. I'm Karagawa Baldwins, and I'll be coming back to you tomorrow. And please, let's continue with Morning at NTV.